Home decorating is one of the key features in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Whether you like decorating your resident rep house on your island, making holiday homes in Happy Home Paradise, or with the 3.0 update making beautiful hotel rooms. But if the thought of decorating makes you a little nervous, or you're struggling to make designs you're proud of, don't worry, I have lots of tips in today's video to help you make rooms that your villagers will love. Don't forget to like and also subscribe for more Animal Crossing content, but your interior decorating class is now officially in session. So let's begin with things that you can do before you even start decorating that will help you create a beautiful room. If you're currently staring at a blank canvas and thinking, what do I do next? A great place to start is by thinking about what kind of functionality your room will have. If you're thinking of the 3.0 resort, then a bedroom and maybe a bathroom would be a great way to go. But if you're decorating your own home or your villagers' homes, you may want to do something different. You can obviously go down the more traditional route of things like a kitchen, living room, dining room, and so forth, but you can definitely mix up your interiors with more creative style rooms that still have a home feeling. So you could do like a craft room, a baby's nursery, and in the past I've even done a pumpkin storage room. You of course don't even need to have the room be house themed at all. You can go down whatever route makes you happy, whether it be a shop, maybe a supermarket, or a florist. You could even do recreations of things from your favorite movie. I really enjoyed recreating the scenes from Mean Girls. Things like this are so much easier to do in rooms as you have more freedom and not outside on your island. So overall, do not be afraid to be creative with your interiors, and it can be a lot more fun. If you do go down the more traditional type of room, you may want to think about a theme. Do you want a sleek modern kitchen or maybe a more countryside inspired one? You can just get stuck right in and start decorating without a theme, but if you do have one, I find that it helps when it comes to decorating. For example, it helps you decide what types of furniture you want to use in your build, maybe what colors you want to go down. There's just lots of different variables when it comes to decorating, so having a plan really does help. As I mentioned, colors are very important, and this can also help you decide what items you may want to use. I usually try and stick with 2 colors that I want to be the accent colors, and then I choose either a metal or a wood to try and complement them. For example, blue and white, I'll probably then go for a light wood color to go alongside that. You can choose multiple colors or keep it simple, it's up to you, but having a distinct color palette definitely makes things feel a little bit more cohesive. Alongside colour and theme, you can also think about the furniture you are picking. Selecting similar types of furniture will help create a more put together look for your interiors. For example, the city chic furniture probably isn't going to be quite right if you're trying to create a cottagecore interior. If I was doing that, I would probably try and stick with the ranch furniture or the log furniture. I'm not just saying you just need to stick with one furniture type, but definitely think about ones which are more fitting for your look that you're trying to achieve. A lot of the time when I'm decorating, I do just go with the flow and don't tend to plan all that much. But when it does come to interiors, if I know I'm going to want to have separate areas within my build, then I do try and plan that out ahead of time or see how it will look in the game. If I want a room with multiple functions, I will use items such as partitions and pillars to separate out the area. For example, if I want to have a bathroom in the corner, then it will be a good idea to pop down some partitions to see what space you have left to build with. I think we all like a little bit of privacy when using the bathroom. Decorating inside the partitions sometimes can be a little finicky, so it is sometimes a good idea to place these partitions last, or if you have seen how you want to plan out, remove them, then decorate and then pop them back in. If you are decorating the larger rooms in your home, you can also think about using dividers to create 2 cozy separate spaces and a hallway like this. So instead of having one giant room, you actually end up with 2 smaller rooms and a nice hallway. This works really nicely as you can create 2 distinct little cozy spaces. You could have 2 different style rooms, maybe different kind of themes in each one, and you can still have access to each of them. So it's really handy for that. But no matter how you decide to plan out your room, definitely have a play around, see what you can come up with before you commit to your final design. One room I always struggle to decorate is my main entrance room on my resident rep home, and this is because there's lots of doorways off of this, so you have to be quite tactical and planning out where your walkway is going to be. Because of this, I have kind of decided to section out the area so that you can still have a walkway, but planning this room definitely does come in handy so that you can make sure that you are maximizing your full space. Another creative trick for your main entrance room, and this could work for any other rooms, is adding in a partition wall just in front of the rear doorway, and then you can add either a pillar either side or whatever it is you want to do to jazz it up a bit. But this means that there is still an access point, but you can actually decorate in front of it then, making it a different kind of functional space. Perfect if you want like a living room area, or maybe you just want something to kind of clear off that point, and then you have that area in the middle to fully decorate without having to worry about the door. When it comes to planning out your room, also remember that you don't have to just use the base shape. If you have the partition walls or pillars, you can get creative, adding in little nooks or blocking off whole areas with no way to access them. This is great if you want to do things like making a feature window, perhaps a little breakfast dining nook, maybe a book reading area. There's so many possibilities. You do not have to just use the basic rectangle that's available to you, so feel free to get creative with the room shape itself as well. Something that can also help you when planning out your room is thinking about whether you want a focal point. Depending on your room type, this could be something big like a fireplace, maybe a big breakfast bar, or perhaps if you're doing a bedroom, you could make a real big feature out of the bed itself. If you have an idea that you want to be the centerpiece, then have that take center stage, and I would recommend putting that in first and then maybe build out around it. Similar to when you're trying to create a focal point, I do recommend that if you have lots of big items, I recommend placing them down first of all, like your bed, your sofas, and then working around it and adding in the smaller items that will add the smaller details, make things feel a little bit cozy later. And whilst on the topic of big things, don't be afraid to bring bigger items that aren't typical use inside into your interiors. I have used the plaza clocks for a fairy tale inspired bedroom before, but there is nothing stopping you bringing big castle walls inside if you wanted to. Get creative with items, and who knows what you will create. So now you have a brief idea what you want your room to be and how it's going to be laid out. Let's talk about walls first of all. There are so many great wallpapers in the game, but don't be afraid to mix and match them. Find similar colors that work together, or maybe match your desired color palette. You could have multiple different wallpapers or maybe just one feature wall, but don't be afraid to see what wallpapers do go together, as you might be surprised what the outcome is. If none of the in-game wallpapers are to your liking, you can use custom designs as wallpapers. All you need to do is open up your custom designs with your desired pattern and then set it as the wallpaper. The only downside to this is that you will lose the windows, and this may affect your lighting, so bear that in mind when it comes to adding in lamps and lights. If you still can't find the right color or pattern that you're looking for, then you can just go ahead and go into the custom design editor and pick a color that you are after, and then you can save that custom design and then click apply it to your walls as you would with the wallpapers. You can also layer paneling or border patterns alongside the base of your walls for an added detail. You can do this by finding your custom design and then customize glow stickers. And once you've done that, then you can add it all along the bottom just to give this little effect, which looks great combined with different wallpapers or colors. If you do decide to go down the route of using a custom wallpaper and you have lost your windows, then don't worry, as you can also get creative by using one of the scenic wallpapers in game and framing the area with pillars. If you have glow stickers, you can also find that there are a lot of window designs available. These vary from frames that you can lay over the top of a scenic in-game wallpaper, or they have fully designed windows that will also give you a scenic view. You can also use a custom design as a canvas. If you just go into your custom designs and then place it as a canvas on the wall, you can then freely move it around to the desired location. If you've got your windows in place, you may also want to add some curtains. There are a few ways to add them if you want a softer finish. You could use the curtain partition. Don't forget you can customize these. Find a curtain simple panel design, or even add some fabric ceiling items. These are really a great finishing touch. If you want to add some more depth to your window areas, you can also use pillars and partitions to create windowsill areas. If you place a pillar either side of your desired area and then you add the partition running along in between the pillars, you create a wonderful little area. And the great thing about using the partitions is that you can then go in and add smaller knickknacks on top of the partition, so it feels really lived in and wonderful. Another fun trick for using scenic wallpapers is to create a balcony. Again, you can use pillars and partitions to do this, but you can also get more creative by using things like the steel fence or the wooden partitions if you wanted to. Plant partitions are also a great item as well. Once you've done that, you can then find yourself a custom designed glow sticker or an in-game item to create the illusion of the balcony itself. This is honestly a great way to divide up your rooms, and it also helps create the feeling of the outside coming in. And there's also a few different avenues you can go down with a balcony, whether you want it a more tropical feeling or maybe more of like a lodge style as well. That's gorgeous. Or you could just have a city night skyscape with a more modern twist as well. Doors are also a fun way to add a little bit of detail into your rooms. You can do this in a couple of different ways. For example, you can use a custom design on a simple panel and then just place it in front of your desired area. Or if you're wanting one to place on a wall, again, you can use a custom design on a glow sticker. Obviously, it doesn't have any functionality, but it's just a fun little thing to add in. If your walls are looking a little bit bare, a fun way to add extra details is to make it a gallery wall filled with paintings and pictures. I love to do this. It is a great feature for your living rooms or bedrooms. And to make it even more interesting, don't forget to play around with different sizes, shapes, and also add in some texture with the wall hangings or maybe some plants too. If you don't like the look of in-game artwork, then you can also display custom designs and customize glow stickers to make it look like artwork. There are some great different custom designs I've seen out there. Although artwork is fun, you can also find some really adorable creations that will add little accents. Over the years, I've saved a lot to my Pinterest, so don't be afraid to go and look at that. The link should be in the description below. But I found things such as this little shelf or maybe this little hanging area, which might be perfect for a hallway. Really cute. If you're working on a bathroom, closet or kitchen, then you may want to add in some cupboards. There are some items now that you can place on the walls, but there isn't a whole bunch. So if you want to add your own, then again, you can place some custom designs on your wall, either as a glow sticker, or you can actually use simple panels as well, and then place the furniture items in front of them. When you're making a bathroom, also do not forget about the wall items as well. These can really help make things not look so bare. Thankfully, Nintendo has given us a few nice ones, such as a towel rack, but even just hanging a shower over a bathtub can really help make it feel a little bit more impressive. Another favorite wall tip is hanging clothes on your walls. This applies to hats, clothes, and shoes. I love having a little corner of my bedroom where I place a wardrobe and then have like a little dressing area so you can have a hat hung up, some outfits on the wall so they look like they're ready to be worn. The shoes are also great and they come on this little plinth, like a shelf area. So not only is this good for your bedroom, but it could also be good for a hallway area where you have the shoes all ready to be worn. A little thing to remember when it comes to hanging items on the wall is that if you place the item on the wall and then you place a partition or a shelf in front of that, then sometimes things can poke through and make it look like it is hanging on the partition itself. You can also do this for things such as wall lights, and it's a really cute way to use partitions if you're not a fan of how little detail there is on the upper half. I always think that it does look a little bit bare. It could definitely do with a little bit of sprucing up. So there's a good way to do that. So that's enough about the walls. What about the flooring? The in-game floors, in my opinion, are pretty good. I definitely have some favorites. I love the chevron kind of wood one. That is definitely one of my favorites and my go-tos. Don't forget, when it comes to placing your floors, it does give you the option to decide most of the time which way you want your floors to be laid if you are looking at one of these, and it can make a difference. So don't forget to play around with that. There are some floors that I love in this game that have some details that I don't particularly like. For example, the ship floor. I love the plank style of this as it's just a little bit more rustic, but unfortunately there is a central piece that is not so ideal if you're trying to create a cozy room. So I do use this floor a lot, but I do cover it up with a rug just so that I feel like it is hidden. Again, if you don't enjoy the in-game floors, don't be afraid to use custom designs to create the perfect floor that you are looking for, and you can lay it down as a whole floor pattern. You don't just have to use custom designs on the whole floor though, you can use rug designs and place them inside too. I feel like this isn't used enough, but all you have to do is go into your custom designs and select place the item as a floor tile. The great thing about this is that you can freely rotate the item as well, which is an absolute game changer. I wish we had that in the outside decorating, it would be so good. I love to do this with doormats as the options in the game are not my favorite, and it just makes your home feel that little bit more cozy when you have a little doormat to wipe your feet on. Don't be afraid to mix your floor styles. You can do this using specific square rugs. These ones particularly are great if you don't have any custom design options or if you don't have access to Nintendo Online, because they feel quite realistic. You've got the wood plank one and there's also a stone one as well. If you are using custom designs, then obviously you can place down them in a certain area. This is something I like to do if I'm trying to create like a bathroom corner or maybe have a kitchen area, because I'm definitely not going to want to have kitchen tiles in my living room. So there are specific things for the walls and floors, but now let's get into some things that are more general decorating hacks for interiors. When decorating outside, one tip a lot of people follow, and I think this is something that we've been told about a lot, is having your larger items at the back of the area or the build so that it doesn't divide things. And I think this still applies to interior decorating. When I am decorating, I always try and put my wardrobes and other big furniture pieces kind of at the edges of the room and around the outside, so it's not kind of interfering with what's going on in the center of the room, and it just feels a little bit more realistic. Once you have your bigger items in place, then don't scrimp on those smaller items, and don't forget you can put things on top of wardrobes and you can add things onto shelves as well. Generally, if you can add an item on top of something, I always will, and it's a great way to make your rooms feel fuller, and that's good if you like a cluttered look like I do. Simple panels are one of the most versatile items in the whole game, and don't be afraid to use them indoors. I have already mentioned about using these as doors, but you can also use them in a number of different ways, for example, to separate a space or to act as a backdrop for a section. I also think that a lot of players forget about the low simple panels. These also work really well to hide things or change up furniture if you want to place them in front of items. Again, I spoke about cupboards earlier, but the low simple panels are a great way to add cupboard options if you're not happy with the way that furniture items look in the game. Another fun way to play around with illusions is using the wooden chest to use them as fake stairs. A lot of people have done this in a few different ways. They've used it to create like loft beds or even a hallway. A lot of people choose to do this on the outside of the islands, but you could also bring it indoors. So all you need to do is add the chest down, and then you can add some partitions either side to create a super easy little hallway. And if you place it in the center of the room, it also gives you some nice like little nooks to decorate as well, which is fun. I've mentioned about adding things on top of shelves, but another great way to add clutter is by adding in soft furnishings. The pillows in Animal Crossing are some of my favorite items, so don't scrimp on these. Remember, you can stack things on top of Zen cushions, so you could even add a smaller item on top, and you can also place another cushion on top of the single Zen cushion, so it looks really cozy. One of my favorite things to do when I'm adding like a picnic area or something. The rattan basket is also great for giving kind of a softer feeling for cozy spaces. If you are really looking to make a cozy home, also don't forget to add in those smaller items. So whether it be like a little book, there are some great Reds items, but also clothing items are really good as well. Shoes, bags, and even socks. You can also place clothes, which I think looks great in a bedroom. This same kind of decorating tip also applies for decorating kitchens, but for this, don't forget to add lots of food dishes to your tables. This will all just make your room feel a lot more lived in. I've spoken a lot about custom designs for your walls and floors, but also don't forget you can add your own personal style for furniture items. Honestly, I would be lost without my custom designs, and I love adding different patterns and things as it really can help separate your room from other things that you may have seen your friends doing. Customizing a bedspread, for example, can make all the difference to your room style, and it can really help you kind of achieve the theme or look you were going for. Speaking of beds, one of the things I love to do is add a little something at the end of the bed or at the back of the bed. You can use lower items like the Zen bench to store some knickknacks on, maybe put some slippers on, or behind the bed you can place some decor items to make it feel more like a functional headboard. There are also some bigger items that you can use where you can kind of have it as the main centerpiece behind the bed and not necessarily have space to put items on, but either way, play around with the front and the back of your beds just to have a little bit more detail in there. If you aren't a fan of the beds in the game, you could also create your own 4-poster bed. I love to experiment with the partitions for this, and once you have kind of figured out how you want your bed laid out, don't forget to add in the draped fabric ceiling items that will really help create the look and make it feel a little bit elegant. There are also some fun ways to experiment behind your beds with pillars and partitions. You could do some shelving units behind there and maybe try placing some shelves behind your bed, or maybe even a slatted partition for a little bit of an added feature. Now let's talk about bathrooms a little bit. We do have the shower head wall item that I mentioned earlier, and it is great placed over the bath. However, if you want this item as like a standalone shower instead of using one of the shower furniture pieces, then you can use a simple panel to act as a divider, or use a curtain partition as the shower curtain. There are actually some in-game bath themed custom designs which you can use if you do want to complete that, or you can obviously find your own custom design. Another thing I love is adding low partitions around your bath. If you use one of the square bathtubs that are in the game and then add the partitions around, not only does it allow you to add your favorite rubber ducky to the side of your bathtub, it also gives the illusion of stepping into the bath, and it just looks very fancy, very spa-like. I mentioned earlier the wall hack item, but you can also use this with your bath. For example, if you wanted to, you could make it look like your gyroid is having a bath by putting the wall item very close to the bathtub. It's really cute, and there are even some gyroids that actually blow bubbles, so it's perfect for that. For kitchens, one of my favorite things to make are breakfast bars. My favorite way to do this is to use the partitions. However, they are a little bit thin, so if you want a thicker one, you may decide to use the counter items in the game. I find breakfast bars are a great way to help break up space, and they are great if you're having a multifunctional room and you don't want to dedicate a huge dining area. When it comes to decorating, sometimes it is fun to have different types of furniture and items, so don't be afraid to mix and match. One way I love to do this is when it comes to creating a dining room, have different styles of chairs and sometimes even tables. Having 2 types of tables does make things a little bit more interesting, but also don't be afraid to mix up your sofas and your seating. Mixing things up, it does just make things feel a little bit more adventurous. Part of decorating in Animal Crossing is about getting creative, so don't be afraid to bring more traditional items that are considered outdoor items inside. Don't be afraid to experiment with things such as party string lights. These can be great for creating a cozy atmosphere, or maybe you could use a wood partition as a feature headboard. There are honestly lots of different things you could do this with, so don't be afraid to try and give things a go and see what works and maybe what doesn't. If you are still struggling with rooms and decorating and you have access to Happy Home Paradise, and potentially we will be able to adjust the room sizes with the 3.0 update, we don't know yet, but if you can, try a tiny home. These are actually quite fun to do, and even if you aren't struggling, they're a fun little challenge. It's nice to kind of see what you can fit in the smaller rooms and just get used to decorating, and it's less daunting than having one of the giant rooms. It's a good way to start. If you have managed to make your rooms look beautiful, don't forget, if you have access to the polish technique, to add some final sparkle. The butterfly effect is honestly one of my favorite for greenhouse inspired or plant rooms. Another finishing touch is to have a play around with lighting and see what works best for your room, as sometimes this can make all the difference. If you're having a cozy room, I would definitely try and go towards more warm tones, but if you're having a darker themed room, why not see what your room would look like at night? And finally, if you don't want to decorate your full home on your island, you don't have to. You can easily block off the other rooms using big items such as bookcases, simple panels, wall partitions, whatever it is. You can easily place them down and this will block off any other unwanted visitors accessing them. So there we go, there are 50 or maybe even over 50 design tips and tricks for when it comes to decorating your interiors. Let me know if you have anything else that I've missed in the comments to help your fellow community members out. Have a great rest of your day and happy decorating.